예, 이번 세션 좌장을 맡은 오세정 국민의당 국회의원입니다. 비례대표입니다. 진행은 영어로 하겠습니다. 그 외국 스피커들이 계셔서. Okay, I think it's time to start the technical session C-1. The main theme of this session is human resource development demanded by artificial intelligence in industry. I think we can say rather than AI, in the broad terms, the fourth industrial revolution. As stressed in the World Economic Forum this year, the world is changing quite rapidly due to the so-called fourth industrial revolution with the advent of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robot technology, and big data, and so on. Hence, the nature of jobs in the future will be drastically different from those in the current industrial age. In this session, we will discuss how to educate our future generations to prepare for this change and how to change our school system. We have two eminent speakers and two prominent panelists to discuss this important topic. Let me introduce the first speaker, Professor Hyungju Park, who is now the president of the National Institute for Mathematical Sciences. Professor Park was educated in Seoul National University as well as University of California, Berkeley, and his major was mathematics. And he is now chair professor of mathematics in Adju University, while he also worked as the president of National Institute for Mathematical Science. He actually worked the chairman of the organizing committee for International Congress of Mathematics, ICM, in 2014. Okay, let's welcome Professor Park to hear his talk.
네, 감사합니다. So, I'd like to talk about education in the AI area, and my main theme is the education as a tool for knowledge transfer has to be seriously re-looked at and has to be reformed. Since we have some guests from foreign countries, tell a little bit about the modern history of Korea. We all know that Korea was very concerned with education for a long time, which opened the economic breakthrough in 60s and 70s. This shows how Korea was how focused Korea was on education. That the first one is a book by Hendrik Hamel, who was a Dutch sailor whose ship was who lost his ship and during a hurricane, and he lived in Korea for 13 years in 17th century. And after he went back to Netherlands, he wrote a book. And in that book, what he remembers about Korea is that children are always reading books. It just impressed him so much. And the second one is a French painter and a French soldier, actually. And he came to Korea to fight a war against Korea. And then after he went back to France, he wrote a book, and he also, again, his memory of Korea is that books are everywhere. And even in mountain villages, there are always schools, and that just was so bizarre in his eyes. I mean, and then during Korean Civil War in 1950s, even during war, they maintained 10 schools. So this kind of this shows how focused Korea has been on education, and how stubbornly focused Korea has been. And then it took 60 years for Korea to move from the left to the right, and we think the Korean the Korean focus on education actually made that difference. So what's next? First of all, education has been an instrument for knowledge transfer. However, the amount of knowledge is exploding, and it is quickly replaced by more advanced ones. So knowledge itself is not the importance of knowledge itself is much less important than before. And also many jobs are created and many jobs disappear. And if a student is trained for a specific job, then he or she may have a problem when his or her job disappears. And that person has to be retrained, and if that person doesn't know how to quickly learn new subject, I mean, then he or she is in trouble. So education has to now take this into consideration. And what's happening in Korea? In Korea, education, in my view, is a social cost rather than social asset. One big problem in Korea is excessive private tutoring. You look at the numbers there. Out of school expense, in total education expenses, Korea just stands out. I mean, that's creating a big problem in Korea, especially because the rich people can afford it, while there are many families who cannot afford it, and this is making a big social problem at the moment. And also, because college entrance rate in Korea is the highest in the world, and many people think college education determines that person's lifetime achievement. So parents are paranoid, and they just have to educate their children well in advance, and then widespread early education and parents' excessive interest in gifted student education actually is also a problem now. Many parents tend to believe that their kids are special, and their kids deserve gifted student education, and this is probably a global phenomenon, but this is even more so in Korea. You look at the numbers there. Korea, in terms of achievement, Korea is doing very well. However, learning efficiency index, meaning if you look at the time invested, money invested, and then the return, then Korea is lagging behind. So, we are definitely not doing things well or effectively. K-12. So we need to change things. So what is needed? Korea has, during the past 30 years, Korea went through 7 education curriculum reforms. And each curriculum reform always never failed to reduce the amount of curriculum. Reduce the curriculum. It never increased the curriculum. So meaning, so now the students have less material to learn. However, they are forced to repeat the same material over and over again. It's like a problem-solving machine, because that turned out to be the most effective way to do well in the college entrance exam. And students fear to make mistakes, because one little mistake can just ruin, his or her entrance exam, and that can lead to disaster in his or her life. So students actually many students try not to think over the problems, because that'll actually not help in the exam. Also, we all know about this, that jobs are disappearing at the same time. College entrance rate is the highest in the world. However, many college graduates do not find jobs in Korea. Actually, the unemployment among the young people is the single biggest social problem in Korea at the moment. And this is, of course, global phenomenon. It's not just Korea-only problem, which we have to keenly aware and have to prepare for. In Korea, if you go to a good, let's say, well-known high school, then about half of the students actually are planning to go to medical school. I mean, I personally visit some high schools often and give lectures because I enjoy interacting with the young kids. And often I ask them questions. What do you want to do? What do you want to major in the college? And as I said, my experience so far is about half in good schools. And that's just, that's not sustainable. Meaning if such a student doesn't enter a medical school, then he or she will feel that he has failed. College freshman already feeling that he or she has failed in his life. That's miserable. I mean, he should be ambitious and he should be happy to explore new possibilities, but he already feel that he has failed as a college freshman because he couldn't go to medical school. That's just not acceptable in my view. This is Vinod Khosla. He's a successful venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, and he expects that 80% of doctors will disappear, meaning only 20% will survive. I mean, he's a pessimist, an extremist actually. Why? Because if you look at the last line, what is it? The big data is changing medical profession, and many patients who are seeing doctors out of fear will have a better reason to visit doctors. So only when the patients need to see doctors, they will. Right now, many people who do not know, who are just worried about his or her or their health conditions, just simply go to hospitals. So many patients go to see doctors unnecessarily, but this will be reduced because of all the biometric data collected by smartwatches. Well, these things the biometric data will be compared to the patient data collected in the cloud, and the probability can be computed if that person is likely to have a certain disease, and then the device will advise the person to see a doctor if the person needs to. So this drastically reduces doctor visits. So anyway, I think that's his rationale. So this also changes the medical profession, and students need to know these changes before planning their career. So we need to. So I'm talking about education reforms that are needed in Korea, and there are certain different aspects. First, we can talk about K-12 education reforms, also college education, and post-college educations. So I will talk about three different levels of education reforms. So K-12 is from kindergarten to high school. First of all, we all know that massively big data, actually McKinsey report says the data transmitted over wireless phones for 2 years, I'm sorry, that has changed. In 2009 and 2010, not one. So for 2 years is more than the data mankind had accumulated for the preceding 2,000 years. And that shows how drastically more data we are collecting. So in this era of big data, in this time of big data, we need to educate children to have these abilities. I mean, not just the ability to solve multiple choice problems quickly, without errors, without mistakes. I mean, that's definitely not the goal of our education. I mean, they need to be able to question, and they need to be able to seek answers. But right now, the Korean education system discourages questioning because that disrupts the skill acquisition process. So the second ability actually emphasizes that this ability to draw conclusions from a large set of data. I mean, data is just a set of numbers. It's meaningless. But the students need to learn how to draw conclusions out of them, and that's kind of a capability that older generations didn't have to worry about, and then we need to be able they need to be able to communicate the conclusion to non-experts. So, in my view, the curriculums there are different layers of a subject. I think languages and arts are the foundations, and mathematics is in the middle. I didn't put science here, science and philosophy. Science and philosophy are higher up, meaning based on these skills, they learn how the nature, so these are, in a sense, these are necessary components to go up to that level, mathematics and, science and philosophy. So those are not really on the same level, in my views. I think science and philosophy are built on these foundations. So I think math and languages are built before science and philosophy. I mean, if you look at the I'm looking at things hierarchically. And then, of course, nothing is complete without change of evaluations. Meaning, if students are asked multiple choice problems, their educational experience will be optimized. Their ways of learning things will be optimized for that evaluation system. So evaluation is a main tool to actually make reforms. I mean, to change the learning habits. Right now, I compared the 10th grader. I compared the midterm exams in high schools in France and high schools in Korea for 10th graders. In France, a 10th grader was given 10 problems for 2 hours. This is a math midterm, typical mathematics midterm. 10 problems for 2 hours. In Korea, 20 problems for 50 minutes. Let's say 1 hour. So that's 4-1. Meaning Korean students are asked to solve much more problems in very short amount of time. So that's the skill they try to learn. That's the skill they are, and that's the way that's the skill they are optimized to. Their educational experience is optimized for. So what this shows is Korean students try to learn things, try to solve problems quickly. And to do that, they try not to think. They just simply look at the types and they just classify the problems into certain categories, and then because this is the only way to solve all those many problems in such a short amount of time. So I think even in math, I think essays should be expected. I mean, should be given as homework, meaning like this. Write an essay on the social social problems in let's say in 17th century Europe, when Isaac Newton invented calculus. Meaning it will show that students will look up and they will learn that Isaac Newton invented calculus not for his own, not as a hobby, but while in the course of studying the motions of planets and stars and Euclidean geometry was not enough. So they will see that how calculus came out. I mean, this gives this puts perspectives on the subject they are learning. I mean, this essay I think should be introduced even in math and science. In Korea recently, coding education has been an important theme, and this will be introduced. This will be mandatory actually for elementary school students. But right now, the coding education or programming is focused only on programming. I mean, like scripting. Of course, machines can do that better. I mean, now machines using this deep learning and all, I mean, they can actually translate. I mean, programming or coding is also a process of translations. I mean, machines can do this better. We do not want to teach our kids this manual skill of programming. I mean, it should be more than that. I mean, instead of soft skill, we have to go for system skill. And right now, the coding education is concerned with that question: how do we make an app? How do we make an Android or iPhone app? But we actually have to teach them. We have to actually ask those bunch of questions. Why do we want to make that app? The students need to be able to answer that first. Why do, and they have to be able to make a team, and they have to be able to allocate different tasks to different team members. I mean, this is a system skill. The final product is just a product out of all this process, but the product itself is not irrelevant here. They are learning during this whole process. So that's what I call system skill. And this is a very educational process. If we just simply look at the end product and, oh, this is a good app, and give a lot of scores to the student, that's misleading, I think. Okay, so my time is almost up, so I will just, that was K-12. How about college and grad schools? Actually, the college entrance exam rate, somebody told me that it's now almost 80% now. I mean, that's the highest in the world, definitely. In my view, in academic, as an academician, in my view, researchers, there are two types of researchers: theory makers and problem solvers. Einstein was a theory maker. Heisenberg was a theory maker. John Nash was a theory maker. However, this is a time when problem solvers are also needed, and even in academia, I think problem solvers need to be better respected, meaning they use academic knowledge to solve real problems, and this also have to be introduced in the college value system. Since I'm a mathematician, I have this statistics which I want to share with you. We contacted 274 math PhDs, and you look at that. Look at the fourth one. Those are math PhDs who went to work for industrial companies. That's 1.8%, virtually none. Meaning Korean academia values academic careers only, at least in math, and other careers are highly discouraged. And I think this right balance, this is a value system. This reflects the value system of Korean academia. I mean, this needs to change in this time. So the reform, as I said, problem solvers have to be valued in academia, and to make that happen, I think colleges should change their evaluation system. The professors' contributions, relevant contributions, have to be evaluated and have to be valued. This will encourage professors and also students not to mind going into industry, not to mind solving real world problems. So this is not, I mean, this change of values happens after change of evaluations. This is just an example in mathematics, but some academicians are now bravely changing, bravely solving problems. That's the meaning of this slide. I mean, they are not only theory makers, but they also are going into problem-solving areas. Also, this is a Stanford mathematician, Gunnar Carlson. He in Silicon Valley, he recently started a startup company, and this already collected over $100 million. And he's a pure mathematician, by the way, not an applied mathematician. And he actually used topology to solve medical problems. He's a big name now in medical profession. So this kind of a problem solving, I call this as a problem solving. I mean, he moved from a theory maker to problem solver, and I think this has to be, you will see more often this kind of a change, and I think this has to be encouraged. Beyond colleges, and of course, we have to take advantage of MOOC, and also the college entrance rate in Korea is too high in my views, so I think the high school graduates with MOOC certificates should be employable. And I think this is an important change that we have to make, and this change has to come from industry. I mean, they should be able to bravely employ these people, and that'll send another message to the young people. So I guess this is about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for nice presentation. Let's thank the speaker. Yeah, Professor Park mentioned the problems of the current K-12 education in Korea, such as the excessive private tutoring, simple knowledge transfer, and they force students to solve preset problems repeatedly in a short time rather than think deeply about the problem. So he said future education should focus on logical and critical thinking, ability to draw conclusions from a large set of data, and ability to communicate the conclusion to non-experts. And he also stressed the lifetime learning and the MOOC, online education system. Okay, let's move on to the second talk of this session, which will be given by Professor Chung of Ewha Women's University. Professor Chung actually was educated in Seoul National University, both BA and PhD in education policy. And then he worked in the government, Ministry of Education, for about 10 years as a deputy director. And then he moved on to Ewha Women's University as a professor in 2012. He will give a talk entitled Rethinking School System in the Age of Intelligence Information Society. Let's welcome Professor Chung.
Good morning. Nice to meet you. My topic is Rethinking School System in the Age of Intelligence Information Society. Contents are like this. First, I will talk about the crisis of school system and the opportunity intelligence information society. And then I want to talk about the new directions for the future. Let me talk about the crisis of school system. In human history, the current school system does not have a long history. The history of school system is less than 200 years. The single-ladder school system means the single school education is operated not for some aristocrats, but for all citizens. It means that the educational value formerly enjoyed exclusively by special class of people can be shared by all people. Mass education enhanced democracy. Let me show you the characteristics of a school now. I want to ask a question. For whom does school exist? Teacher? Staff? I think school exists for students, but today school has many problems. Inflexible school-led system, standardized curriculum, classical lecture, norm referenced evaluation, and school facilities have lots of problems now. So let's see it concretely. Pursuant to the Educational Act, the current Korean school system divides the school stage into elementary, middle, and high school, and operates 6-3-3 system. And the same school system is operated throughout the whole nation, and it has its own advantages in the aspect of efficiency. However, considerable problems do exist because of the rigidity. Because the Korean schools operated without reflecting the differences in learning level, speed, needs, and cultural backgrounds among students, both the rapidly learning students and the slowly learning students who are not accustomed to the level of education content and the speed of teaching provided from their schools have to be alienated. Students are all different, but uniform education, which allows no exception, is conducted in schools. And the national curriculum is the national curriculum system that further consolidates the rigidity of school system. The difference in learning level and speed among students starts to appear right after they enter the elementary schools, but superior-centered uniform curriculum is being provided to the students. The uniform curriculum is composed in the form of a number of class hours and the number of subject units. The difference in academic level of students at school entrance period gets larger when they go on to the higher school years through standardized curriculum. Once a learning deficit occurs, it is accumulated continuously, and it is very difficult to overcome it. And let's see the classroom. In the national curriculum system, the classical lecture is that one teacher teaches many students, like this room. One speaker say, and many students listen to the teacher. And a lecture is teacher-centered, and the instruction is superior-centered. Government is trying to reduce class size to improve school education. However, it has been unsuccessful. It didn't change the structure of classroom. And norm reference the relative evaluation system is enforced in all Korean high schools. Because the relative evaluation system measures the academic achievement of the students by dividing it into grades, only the students belonging to top 4% of the grade 9 system can get grade 1. And a certain ratio of students in all schools is evaluated as the failures in their learning. The high-stakes relative evaluation is causing non-instructive private tutoring, not only for the students with low academic achievement, but also the students with high academic achievement. This private tutoring is not intended for academic achievement, but for winning in the competition with other students. The current schools where mass education is conducted can be linked with the factories where mass production is conducted. Like the process of the factory, the students are placed on the conveyor belt by the curriculum, and they are automatically going on the next school year and next school level. In the factories, perfect quality control is conducted in each process to increase the sales and to improve the defects of products. However, in schools, complete learning support is not provided to underachievers in each semester and school year, and the level of quality control in schools is much lower than that of factories. Let's move on to chapter 2, the opportunity. We have opportunity. It's an intelligence information society. The first industrial revolution referred to an intelligence information society is not an imaginary world anymore, but it became a reality to us. The first industrial revolution is going on the unprecedentedly higher speed than former industrial revolutions, while various technologies that have been developed individually are being converged with each other. The product of the creative technology such as unmanned car, AI robot, drone, IoT, 3D printing, nanotechnology, and biotechnology are changing the world day by day. Korean researcher defined the intelligence information society as the combination of AI and ICBM. Here, ICBM is not the intercontinental continental ballistic missile. It's the missile, but ICBM means saving the data collected by IoT and analyzing the accumulated big data and providing suitable service in the form of cloud and mobile device. Using this technology, there are several future-oriented learning systems. Actually, Salman Khan made Khan Academy for K-12 students. They have more than 4,000 clips, and they are using with 23 languages. And as you know, TED is for adults. And there are lots of open courseware. MOOCs is massive open online courses, and there are lots of several MOOCs systems in the world. And the Khan School and Art School are the future-oriented school models in the United States. They used individualized and personalized learning and mixed up with team project with other students. They use blended learning and PBL. And the Minerva School is a provocative university. Minerva School is in San Francisco, and there is no classroom in the campus, and they provide online class to all students. Students change dormitory every semester among 7 cities in the world. It's very provocative and aggressive. Now let's move on to chapter 3. I will talk about the new directions for the future. Using new technology, we need to change the whole school system. It's a chance to change the school system with system thinkings. The objective is to make each student a creative learner. The goal is every student succeeds in the school. And in terms of learning content, humanity and science as knowledge, social and emotional learning for an attitude, and digital literacy as a skill, and convergence and integrated education are needed. And in terms of instruction, technology-based scaffolding and customized learning need to be used. It's the model of new directions school using system thinking, whole system change. The basic strategy to redesign school education system is to construct a system that can support the customized learning using new technologies in the intelligence information society. New school system consists of a flexible school system, customized education, teaching and learning, and authentic evaluation, technology-based environment, creative teacher, and educational support system. To realize customized education, the reform of overall school system is necessary. The current school system should be changed to a more flexible system that can reduce the supplier-centered rigidity and uniformity of school system of the industrial age, and can realize the educational goals. For customized education, it is necessary to introduce a non-grade system. It's a non-grade system according to the level of academic achievement and learning speed of learners in cognitive subject learning domain focused on knowledge and understanding. The non-grade system can help the students conduct the learning in diverse way by reflecting their individual needs and learning results. However, in project learning that needs cooperative learning with the student among the subject with cognitive content, it is necessary to keep the school year of students. Also, in non-cognitive subjects such as music, art, and sports, and in creative experiential activities such as club activity and volunteer activity, keeping the school year is desirable. In team learning and non-cognitive activities that keep the school year, the principle of harmony and equity can be applied. And the present national curriculum specifies maximum content that could be learned by each school year and school level, but this needs to be changed to minimum requirement that should be learned by all students. Specifically, it is necessary to set core standards that should be achieved by all students in each school level, and to manage mastery level that can evaluate the students through absolute evaluation according to the standards. If we support the learning of the students, so they can achieve core standards without fail, and introduce learning achievement management system, the accountability of the school can be also improved. It's an example of core standard curriculum system model. And for the customized education, there are several models for customized education. Differentiated education, personalized education, and individualized education need to be deliberately utilized in teaching and learning activities. Like this, differentiation means students have same object and content, but group instruction and learning are used. Individualization, students have same object and content, but they learn individually. And in the personalization, student has the different object and content, and they learn individually. They are the models for customized education. And in elementary and middle school stages, the educational goals need to be jointly established through differentiated and individualized strategy. And various small group and individualized teaching method need to be used. From high school stage, it is desirable to encourage various and individualized learning experience, such as introduction of credit system using individualized and personalized strategies. To improve the evaluation system, we should aim at absolute criteria referenced evaluation that evaluate the student according to curriculum goals and standards rather than relative competition that encourages competition and rankism among students. And the formative evaluation is assessment for learning. Formative evaluation is more necessary than assessment of learning. By aiming at process-based performance evaluation rather than multiple choice-based paper evaluation, the comprehensive and diversified problem-solving ability evaluation needs to be expanded rather than uniform, collective, and knowledge-based evaluation. I hope that all students could get portfolio like this. This portfolio is filled with all successful learning results. It's an imaginary portfolio. The basic strategy to design customized learning environment is to use technologies in intelligence information society. So learner-centered system with communication needs to be developed, and actually Korean government want to make this customized learning environment and a learning support system. They are making now, I guess. And to make the customized learning possible, the change of teacher's role is required. Teacher's role needs to be changed from the role of knowledge deliverer who teaches the standardized curriculum in fixed way to role of learning mentor, coach, and consultant. For this, creative teachers who can teach or a learning method to students and help them grow as active learners who can create new knowledge are necessary. For operation of flexible school system, the current rigid administrative structure also needs to be reformed. Learning platform for customized learning, cyber tutoring system, and international information-based learning management system are needed. Student care system using AI and ICBM is needed for prevention of bullying, delinquency, and school dropout. A new school system for every student's success is my dream. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Chung, for his nice talk. I think he also mentioned, similar to Professor Park, the crisis of the industrial age school, especially in Korea. He named it factory model, inflexible ladder system, standardized fixed curriculum, and the resulting achievement gap. But he also mentioned the opportunities in the intelligence information society due to the technology development, which he characterized. He says that the customized flexible learning system for all student success. He said we can make use of the ubiquitous learning environment, online classes, artificial intelligence, and ICBM, which is not intercontinental ballistic missile, but this is ICBM means Internet of Things, cloud, big data, and mobile. And he concluded by suggesting new directions, and that is to foster creative learner by mentoring, by helping students self-directed learning rather than simple knowledge transfer. And he said it became possible through AI and ICBM. And he said the customized learning environment in flexible school system should be the direction we should go in the future. Now we have listened to two speakers in this session. Now we'll have a panel discussion. I'd like to invite all the speakers and panelists in the podium. Please come over to the podium. Okay, let's welcome two panelists. Mr. Jason Tyszko. Let's welcome him by big hands. And Mr. Raymond Torres. Okay. I'd like to introduce a little bit about the two panelists. Jason Tyszko was educated in DePaul University. He got a BA degree in political science, and then he went to the University of Chicago to get Master of Arts in Social Sciences. And he got the teacher certification in Illinois, in National Louis University. And then he worked at the State Department, government of the Illinois, State Government of Illinois, Illinois Department, Commerce and Economic Opportunities for about 5 years, or for about 10 years. And then he went to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation as a senior director for Center for Education and Workforce. Now he's the executive director in the same Center for Education and Workforce. Okay, you can have about 10 minutes to talk about the topics we have.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be a discussant during this session. I want to thank both Professor Park and Professor Chung for their presentations. I'm hoping to provide just some commentary from the perspective of the business community of the United States for why this conversation is so important, and touch on some of the recommendations that were included as part of the presentations. And I wanted to start by just first emphasizing why this particular panel discussion is so important. And in today's global economy, the stakes could not be higher for the kinds of changes that were discussed today. And as the pace of change is only going to accelerate, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence, robotics, and increased automation, how one prepares the workforce of the future is going to determine who the winners and losers are within this global economy. And that's not to say it's a battle of country versus country, but even within countries, and trying to think of the issues that could arise from increased inequality because of an ill-prepared generation for being able to adapt to this new workforce. So again, the stakes could not be higher, and this conversation needs to be treated with the seriousness it deserves, because it really is all about securing our future. So I just wanted to emphasize that. And I did want to come to this point about why the fourth industrial revolution is so different. And I think what we've learned, and what some of the statistics that were shared indicate, is that the pace of change is accelerating, and it will only quicken over time, which means how the business community is organized today will be fundamentally different than what it looks like years from now. And it's only going to continue, not only in how we change our business models, but in product and service delivery and how we organize the workforce. So everybody, including the business community, is trying to figure out how to adapt in this new global capitalist environment where technology is driving change at a rate that we've never seen before. So within that circumstance, or within those circumstances, what does that mean for the workers of today? And there's huge implications for how the business community is organizing its workforce. And what we have seen in leading firms in the United States is that the role of innovation is becoming more democratized inside companies. And what was seen as before of top-level leadership being the kind of key drivers of change within the company has fundamentally changed. And that role of driving innovation has now moved down even to the frontline workforce, where routine work is in constant danger of being automated, and even frontline workers are expected to have the skill set to drive innovation in the company and to transform that company routinely. So this was a set of analytical and critical thinking skills that were once valued for senior level leadership positions, but now all workers need those skills in order to be successful, in order to keep up with that, with the pace of innovation. Another key characteristic that I like to point out around the workforce is the need for adaptability. It used to be that somebody could become educated and specialized in a given domain, and they would be able to engage in that specialty over a long period of time in their career and be successful. Back in the United States, as early as the 1970s, all one needed to do was complete a high school education, develop some basic skills, move on to employment, and the chance of you actually reaching the middle class, supporting a family, and achieving what we call the American dream was very realistic, but that is no longer the case. It's going to require advanced levels of education and training, not only for the youth who are coming up through our system, but more importantly, as a worker, you are now expected to continuously learn and adapt to those changing conditions in the marketplace. So something I like to say to the audience as I address is that you can no longer shelter even behind a college education or degree. That is no guarantee that you will be successful in this economy, or even if you are successful in making an initial transition to employment, that is no guarantee that you will not be displaced or dislocated in the economy, and it may prove very difficult, if not impossible, to rejoin the workforce. So again, the stakes could not be higher, and a lot of this is being driven by the technological innovations that are occurring both at work, in our workplace and in our lives. Now, where the where this has implications for the education and workforce system is how do we adapt the education system to now reflect those changes? And how are we preparing future generations to be successful in that new environment where all workers need to drive innovation and all workers need to be adaptive to the changes that are occurring? And unfortunately, what we see in our country is an education system that is still very much like an industrial factory model, where disciplines are organized in silos, where their students learn with peers that look like them and think like them, and that students kind of go through a very strict regimen of 1 year to the next, going through different institutions in a particular order before they enter the workforce. And if you think about some of the changes that have been taking place and this need for creative knowledge transfer, that old system no longer works and will ill-prepare people to be part of that creative class that's going to drive innovation. So I'm here to say this is not only an important conversation in Korea, but is a critically important conversation happening in the United States, and I suspect in most countries of the world right now. So we're all in this together and trying to figure out. What we have tried to focus on within the United States is, well, what are those new skills that are going to allow students to be the innovators of tomorrow? And how do we teach in a way that supports those new skills? So as we've talked to our companies, what we've heard is we are more interested in students who are able to work effectively in teams, to be critical thinkers, to be problem solvers, to be able to take on complex, messy challenges and come up with new, innovative, and creative solutions. But a lot of those creativity skills, those soft skills, those skills that are more about how you solve problems and less about what you know, but how you know it, that's where those are going to be the ones, the individuals who are successful in tomorrow's workplace. So how do you teach those skills and teach them well? Well, we think that one of the best methods for encouraging that skill development is to actually put students in teams frequently and have them work on authentic problem solving. So not giving them a single problem where there is a right answer or a wrong answer within a single discipline, but saying all problems are inherently interdisciplinary, that require cross-functional teams of students that have both depth of skill in a particular domain, but also have breadth of skills to understand how their particular skill sets are able to interrelate with others, with their peers, in order to solve a complex, ill-structured problem. And authenticity is really important here because many countries have done well in terms of organizing project-based learning as a way to teach students. But what we think really makes project learning stand out is if the problem is a real and authentic one with actual stakeholders who are invested in the solution. So some of the ways that we are trying to support this new educational experience is having our companies and our members at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce sponsor challenges that they then provide and crowdsource to teams of students to say, here are the real problems and challenges facing companies today, and we are looking for students to be able to come together as teams to solve those problems, not to say that you're going to come up with the right answer or an answer that's going to lead to a new patent or business. This could be for students as early as the middle schools. But saying we need to provide you with a process to go to work as a member of a team that reflects the kind of process we are encouraging in our own workforce. And we want students to be able to go through that experience and be challenged by it, to fail and fail often so they could learn from those failures, but to also learn that it's not all about coming up with the right answer, but it's about more the creativity that goes into generating a solution. So by the time students have gone through several of these experiences over the course of their education, they actually look like the very workers that employers are going to depend on and rely on to drive innovation inside their companies. And one thing I want to mention is it's not enough just to organize one really good project-based learning experience for students, but if we really want to dream in a big way at this conference, we think that this could potentially be the key to disrupting the entire educational enterprise. So for example, in the factory model, we teach based upon disciplines. And if we are going to move to more authentic innovation challenges, that disrupts that idea and says, all learning should be interdisciplinary and cross-functional. No problem that we face, whether you're in a government, nonprofit, or in a business, is a single disciplinary problem, but we need to encourage interdisciplinary skills. So we need to break down the silos that our education system creates. But not just the silos inside an education organization, but the organizations themselves. So students need to be connected to bigger networks of peers, to connect with them and form new teams to solve new problems. And they should not be restricted to just the individuals in their own classroom or in their own school. So much like we need to break down the silos within our schools, we need to break down the barriers between our schools and make sure students through technology can connect to their peers all over the country, if not the world. And then another major disruption that we could look at is more around the generational challenge. Think about the work we do at our workplace. How often do you work with people who are the exact same age and think like you do? We are constantly involved in intergenerational teams trying to solve problems where there is knowledge transfer between older workers who have been in the field for a long time and younger workers who are coming up but bring new ways of thinking to solve problems. Yet again, the way we've structured both the early education grades as well as the college and graduate student experience, you're more often than not working with your peers who are of your same age in your same community. So we need to even break up those silos to say students should not just be learning how to develop these innovation skills with peers of the similar age, but need to not only break those barriers down so they have more opportunities to work with students who are older and younger than them to form new teams. So those are just some of the ways that we wanted to inject an American perspective into this based on how our business community was involved. And one of the ways that we think the business community can help drive this is starting to really develop a new infrastructure to constantly design new challenges that could be made available to teams of students, whether at the college level or at the pre-college level. But right now, in the United States, we do not have a system for engaging business to create those challenges and facilitating how those business partners connect with these teams of students. But we are looking to repurpose some of our business associations to actually engage their members and to do this as a service. So that way the business community can then crowdsource hundreds, if not thousands, of these innovation challenges every year to students and actually help facilitate employer feedback on how students do in solving those problems. So again, I'll just conclude by saying that the stakes could not be higher, and this is the right conversation to have. And the recommendations that both Professor Chung and Professor Park provided us today about the creative class and how to engage in more problem solving and to support students in more of that creative project-based learning experience is exactly the right direction that we need to go. But we need to have the right infrastructure that makes doing that, moves that to the core of the curriculum at every stage of the educational experience and doesn't become a one-time activity that students can enjoy during the course of their education. So thank you.
Thank you. It's actually comforting to hear that United States have the similar problem as Korea in terms of education. He stressed the importance of innovation for future business and workplace, and he predicts that the business organization will change to support the team-based activities that flatten hierarchies and democratize work. Hence, workers should be prepared for this change. He stressed analytic, creative thinking, adaptability, teamwork, and networking. And in addition, he stressed that the students should be encouraged to engage in interdisciplinary learning and to connect the learning to real, authentic challenges instead of learning subject in silos. And he mentioned the importance of the role of business community to help and build this new education system. Now, the next discussant will be Dr. Raymond Torres. He's a French. He's the director of the Research Department in International Labour Organization, ILO. He got PhD in mathematical economics from the University of Paris. And then he worked at as an economist in OECD, Economic Development and Employment Directorate. And then about 20 years ago, he moved to the ILO and worked in the task force on collaboration. And now he's director of the ILO Research Development Department and fellow at FNU CAS. Okay, please.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I would like, first of all, to express my thanks for the two initial presentations. I think they were excellent, and they portrayed a very interesting diagnostic about the situation in Korea, which, in my opinion, can be extended in many countries, and I think Justin just explained the situation in the United States. The presentation went in great detail about the content of the reforms that could be done to the education system within the curriculum and the organization of the education system. And I would like to add a little bit of the perspective of the fundamental changes that are happening in the production system, and then draw some implications that go also above and into other areas beyond the ones that were presented before. So on the first issue, what is really, I think it's important to understand the changes which are happening in the economy and at the workplace. And I think there are three main changes. It's important for the reforms in education to, I think, have a good diagnostic on this. And the three main changes are the following. I think the first one, of course, has to do with the digitalization of the economy, which is changing considerably, in our opinion, in our research, the kind of education content of jobs. It used to be that what was indeed simply always more education. And clearly now we see, I think it was mentioned before, unemployment among educated youth, which is a relatively new phenomenon. It is happening in Korea, it is happening in many European countries, in Latin America, in China. You have unemployment among educated youth because a number of jobs that required high education, in fact, can be replaced by digital processes. So I think this is a big change which has to be understood. Along with it, there's lots of opportunities, and nobody knows what the job picture of the future will be. Really nobody, I really think nobody. But what we know is that, the only thing we know is that it will be very different vis-a-vis the jobs we have today. So there is a very significant premium on innovation, on people who are able to innovate. A French philosopher who specializes on technology and education, Michel Serres, has just published a book. And he says that what will be needed is, he's very optimistic, in fact, although he's very old, but very optimistic. He says that what is needed is people who innovate because we don't know the sectors, the jobs, where progress will happen in the future. And so, in a way, the education system has to allow this to happen, this innovation. So the first challenge is digitalization. The second one is the challenge of the changing nature of work. There is much more diverse work patterns. It used to be that you had an employer and employees, and this model is changing before our eyes a lot. So what it really means concretely is that there is a lot of instability. There is a lot more people have to be prepared to a lot more instability. No longer stable jobs, no longer full-time jobs on the same location. You can have actually simultaneous jobs, both as an employee and yourself, creating your own activities through the net, and also different work patterns, crowd working, freelance, part-time, and so on, very different from the past. So I think these two, this, if you wish, instability, is a major factor that also has to be taken into account by education systems, and the fact that the bonus will be on people who are able to work through networks. This is for sure something we can say. I have no idea about sectors and jobs, but something for sure is that it's less physical capital that matters today for the new economy. It's actually more the ability to work in platforms. That's another very important issue for education systems. The third very important trend is, I think it was mentioned by Jason before, the risk of inequality and exclusion. It has always been a risk, if you wish, but I would say is even more, we don't realize the extent to which is even more a risk. Because people who fail in the education system, it's not only a social issue as such, but actually is a waste of productive capacity for an economy which is based on the network. The network, by definition, requires a large number of participants. The more the number of participants, the more the benefits for the economy. In the old economy, hierarchy, as was mentioned before by Jason, corresponded to the economic model. What was needed is a core pool of activities and workers, and in a way, the benefits trickle down throughout the economy and society. The new economy is based on the platform, requires a large number of well-prepared participants. Very different system. And so inequality is not only a social issue, but also a very important economic issue to take advantage of the changes, the economic changes. So if that is the case, I mean, these are in a way hypotheses if you want, if these are the nature of the changes, what could be the implications for education policy? I would say, and very speculative, I would mention also three three areas. One, I think, absolutely true, what has been mentioned before, the nature of skills, in a way what you are saying is that less rigid technical skills fragmented in silos, I mean, and more on more generic skills. And also I would add to what you just said, because again, the idea of platform economy, digital economy and so on, is that I think, and we know it works, is that it's extremely important that already the education system itself includes in the curriculum practical experience with the enterprise and with professionals. Not necessarily the enterprise, as I said, you have activities that happen outside the enterprise now. In countries that are successful in having low youth unemployment, and in particular low unemployment among educated youth, one common element in these countries is that there's significant weight on work experience, if possible, as part of the curriculum. I mean, I said before, I work for the past few years in Switzerland. One remarkable thing in Switzerland, I was astonished, is that it's almost impossible to see a professional, whether it's a journalist, an economist, a mathematician, whatever, an architect, whatever, a good baker, without at the same time meeting, that professional always has one or two young people next to him or to her, always. Because practical experience is extremely important to gain precisely the soft skills we are talking about, and also to orient education more to problem solving. I think this is very important. The other is to reward team, and I think this is something which is a big change in most education systems, from Northern Africa to Europe, to several European countries, or certainly Korea, that is education is fundamentally based on individual performance. And so broaden the team element into education systems is very important. So I would say one area is to change the content. I would add to what you said, those two elements, team and practical experience. And again, it's not a theory, it's possible to do, we see. The second element is that much of what you said, the two presentations, was about how to, in a way, change the content of education and so on. But one thing you did not question is the elite colleges, what I would call elite colleges. And I mean, it's not only in Korea. For example, in France also there are elite colleges. And as long as it exists, for sure, children and in particular parents will want their children to go there. So this will not change, I think. So what can be done? Because again, we needed a more democratized system to benefit the platform economy. So I see two different approaches here. One would be to change in a way and broaden the skill content of elite schools, very much along the lines you mentioned before, include a lot more applied research, design, communication, which we know will be important in the future. In the elite school, I think, and we can see that parents and children react to the incentives. I think one clear outcome of your research is that people react to the incentives. The other approach, which would be more radical, and I don't know whether, I mean, it's probably dynamite or very, but I mean, this is a session to open ideas, if you wish, would be to basically extend the reach of elite schools so that they are not elite schools anymore. So basically, the entry becomes much more, is open in numbers, and also the range of elite schools also is open. It's not only, and not just, let's say, sciences, but also there are elite schools on design, on innovation, on entrepreneurship, and so on. And also broaden the entry. So, in fact, many people, a larger number of people, can access those elite schools. I mean, I know it's, of course, it contradicts in a way the notion of elite schools by definition, but it would correspond, it's basically keeping high quality education, but for the much larger number of people. This actually is happening more or less. I mean, people are not waiting for us, researchers, to do this. It's happening more or less already. And in a number of countries, there are already particular elite schools which are created in particular fields. And in particular, in societies like Korea, or I'm thinking now of some Latin American countries where the concept of technical education is devalued, because no parent wants to send children to technical education. The name, the branding is also changed, so that you attract families and children to schools which deal with issues which are important for the economy. They are technical, but you don't name it technical. So I finish in one more point, and then I finish. So anyway, different options. What is best? I don't know. We have to debate, I suppose. And then the final thing I would like to say also, to probably in the future there will have to be much more emphasis on lifelong learning, because of the changes which are happening all the time, the speed of change. I think Krivet is a very good institute. You are lucky to have in Korea places like this where you can think about also lifelong learning issues. And here we need to deal with issues of poaching, because many enterprises, businesses, if they train, they have a risk that people then go to another enterprise, and so you waste your investment. So you have to deal with this practical issue. We have solutions, which I don't have the time to elaborate, but these are very important. And also make sure that the financial rewards go to things that are important for the economy. In recent years, there has been a lot of emphasis on, for example, the financial industry and so on, and not necessarily to solve practical problems of the environment and so on, which are very important. So we have to think also the financial rewards of what is important for lifelong learning. Only just to finish as a final word, that we are on the eve of a major reconsideration of the social contract between families, young people, education institutions, businesses, government, and I think this is an important discussion we're having today as part of this reconsideration of the social contract. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Torres mentioned that we should consider three main changes, which is that we are entering into the digital and innovation era. As a result, the nature of work is changing, such as traditional full-time work will be replaced by simultaneous or part-time works, and so on. And we also should consider the risk of inequality. And as an issue for the education, is that we need the future generation should need more. The nature of skills of the future generation will be different, so it should be more generic and practical experience. And then we should also consider elite quality education and extending opportunity to many students. And also there's the issue of lifelong learning. And then he concluded that we are at the brink of the major change of social contract, which is a big issue, going beyond our session, I think. Now, there are many questions from the audience. Because of the time limitation, I'll pick only two, and then I'll ask these two speakers to answer them. There is one question for Professor Hyungju Park from KAIST. I think he's a student. You said he mentioned that Professor Park mentioned that efficiency of money invested in Korea education is very low because of structure and education system. But I guess the actual problem is the attitude of the students. Although lots of students invest a lot of time and money from their parents, they do not participate well in the study class and assignment and so on. So this attitude of students may be one problem. And then there's another question for Professor Park, how we should the coding education, how should we do that? And there's one question to Professor Chung. I think it's Park Dan-bi, who is a high school student. I will speak in Korean because this question is in Korean. 학교 체계가 무학년제를 도입하면 좋겠다고 말씀하셨는데 한국의 경우 이 초중 대학 이 취업에 너무 강력합니다. 무학년제 도입이 이 단계에 관해 부모들의 혼란과 학생들의 혼란이 나타날 것으로 같은데 이에 어떻게 생각하십니까? 이 변화가 언제쯤 받아들여질까요? 제 생각에 정말 이게 가능합니까? 하는 질문을 드리고 싶습니다. 그리고 맞춤화된 교육에 대해서 말씀을 해주셨는데 온라인 강의, 학교가 개인과의 시스템이 강화되어 한다고 말씀하셨는데 사실 지금 이제 이게 온라인 교육도 돈을 받고 이렇게 바뀌면서 단순히 기존의 인터넷 강의하고 다른 점이 없지 않을까요? 좀 더 자세한 설명 부탁드립니다. 이렇게 질문하셨습니다. 시간이 지금 4분 30초 정도 남았는데 한 2분 정도 두 분 대답을 해주시면 좋겠습니다. 한국말 하셔도 되고 영어로 하셔도 됩니다.
예, 저한테 한 질문 하신 분에게 답하겠습니다. 그러니까 지금 제가 이제 리소스 투입된 거에 비해서 한국의 교육이 efficiency가 낮다라는 아까 그 데이터가 있었는데요. 그거에 관해서 오히려 그런 efficiency는 좀 추상적이고 그거보다는 오히려 교실 현장에서 학생의 그런 그 수동적인 태도가 더 문제 아니냐라는 질문 같아요. 그러니까 뭐 부모님이나 뭐 아주 일방적으로 주어지고 학생은 뭐 많은 돈이 투입되는 거 이런 거에도 학생은 지쳐 있고 뭐 그냥 이게 내 인생이랑 무슨 관계가 있을까 뭐 이런 게 더 문제 현장의 문제를 얘기하신 것 같은데 동의합니다. 근데 그래서 결국은 중요한 거는 이제 뭐가 잘못됐고 뭘 고쳐야 되나 뭐 이제 잘못된 건 사실 분석은 많이 돼 있기 때문에 뭘 고쳐야 되나 문제 같은데 제가 뭐 여러 가지 견해가 있을 수 있는데요. 제 견해는 이제 학생들이 정도의 차이는 있지만 기본적으로 자기 인생에서 자기 하고 싶어하는 일들이 있다면 그 하고 싶어하는 일들과 관계가 있는 일에는 누구나 관심이 있는 거거든요. 그러니까 우리 교육이 그 학생이 자기 인생에 대해서 갖고 있는 계획과 유리돼 있다, 결부 안 돼 있다라는 게 문제인 거거든요. 그러니까 학생이 재미가 없고 관심이 없는 거거든요. 그러니까 그래서 예를 든다면 아까 제가 히스토리나 이런 얘기를 했는데 첫 번째 하나는 그게 수학이든 과학이든 뭐든 간에 배우고 있는 것에 역사적 컨텍스트를 전 같이 보여줘야 된다고 생각합니다. 그러니까 이게 왜 나왔는지 당시에 미적분 나왔던 시대적 상황도 같이 가르쳐주고 뭐 이래서 아니면 통계나 이런 것들이 나온 그 당시 시대적 상황 역사적 필연이거든요. 이런 것들이 당시 어떤 문제를 해결하기 위해서 나온 거거든요. 그러니까 항상 그래서 역사를 같이 가르쳐야 퍼스펙티브가 생긴다고 생각하고요. 이게 현재 우리 교육 커리큘럼에서 미싱입니다. 미적분 가르치지만 미적분이 왜 나왔는지 안 가르쳐주거든요. 그러니까 그 당시 뉴턴의 고민을 안 가르쳐주거든요. 그래서 이제 결국은 저는 히스토리가 수업 커리큘럼에 들어와야 된다고 생각하고요. 두 번째는 예를 들어서 이거 수학을 많이 배우는데 과학을 많이 배우는데 이거 배워서 어디다 쓰지? 나는 나중에 소설가 될 건데 내 인생이랑 무슨 관계야? 이제 자기 인생 그러니까 결국은 뭐냐면 배우는 지식이 어디 쓰이는지 그러니까 그 지식의 활용의 현장 이런 것들을 뭐 적어도 부교재의 형태라도 학생들에게 보여줘야 됩니다. 그러니까 그래서 저희가 얘기한 건 historical perspective 그다음에 applicability 이 두 개인데 어디에 사용되는지 이 두 가지가 교육에 들어와야 된다. 커리큘럼에 들어와야 된다. 그리고 학생이 자기 인생과 관계 있다는 걸 아는데 관심 없는 그런 무모한 학생은 별로 없거든요.
Because of time constraint, I will talk in Korean language. 질문이 고등학생이 해주셨다는데 굉장히 어려운 질문을 두 가지 해주셨는데 무학년제가 가능하겠느냐, 혼란만 가중시키지 않겠느냐는 첫 번째 질문에는 공감합니다. 그래서 사실은 단선적 개선, 무학년제만 도입하는 것만으로는 실현이 불가능하다고 생각하고 제가 제안한 여러 가지 학교 체제를 구성하는 하위 요소들을 종합적으로 재설계해야 가능하다. 특히 대입이나 평가 체제와 연결이 없이는 불가능하다고 생각하고요. 다만 그 필요성에 대해서는 현재 학교 체제가 학년제라는 체제 아래에서 많은 실패자들을 양산하고 있고 그 아이들에 대한 보완적 교육이 안 이루어지고 있다는 문제를 반드시 해결해야 된다라고 저는 생각하고 그게 두 번째 문제와 좀 관련이 되는데 두 번째 질문이 온라인 강의가 인터넷 강의와 뭐가 다르냐? 이게 제가 볼 때 제일 중요한 포인트는 학습자의 맞춤형으로 그 아이의 수준과 속도에 맞춰서 제공해 줄 수 있는 쌍방향 학습 지원 시스템이 사실은 과거에도 원했지만 우리가 기술적인 어려움으로 못 만들었었는데 지금 새로운 기술의 발달로 가능해지지 않았나라고 생각이 됩니다. 네, 시간이 다 됐네요.
Okay, we are at a time that we should close this session. I am sure that there are many questions and comments from the audiences, but I think we have to close now. If I summarize, in this session we discussed how to change our educational system for future generations in view of the rapid change of the society and the nature of the jobs due to the impending fourth industrial revolution. All of our eminent speakers, discussants, agree that the method of traditional school and education system designed in this for the industrial society is not adequate anymore. And they agree that the future education should focus on critical thinking, theory makers, and ability to draw conclusions from big data rather than the simple knowledge transfer. This can be achieved by utilizing new technologies such as AI and big data to create customized, flexible learning system for all students. That's, I think, ideal goal. If that can be achieved, we will be very successful in educating future generations. And the business community can and should help to build this new education system. I think the issue of education is really has a long history and will be discussed in the long time in the future as well. The future task, the immediate task may be to design this new educational system for the fourth industrial revolution society in more details. That may be the topic of the next global HR forum. Okay, with this, I'd like to thank all the speakers and discussants, and especially the audience who really paid attention to this talk and made nice questions, who made this session very fruitful and successful. Okay, I thank all the audiences, and I'll close this session. Thank you very much.